Thank you for your patience, people in the gallery. I can see what you've got there. So I'd like to invite the chair of the hearings panel, Councillor Donovan, to give us a brief introduction on how it went.
Thank you. So, as we all know, today we're here to consider the hearings panel's recommendations for the Pages Bridge Renewal project. Getting to this stage in the project is a major step forward for our community and our city. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking our dedicated staff for the huge amount of work and persistence on getting to this point. I also want to acknowledge my fellow panel members, Councillor Temperton and Barber, for their efforts and engagement through the process. It's been really appreciated. I don't want to go too much into the history, but it's worth noting that the Pages Road Bridge was built in 1931, which makes it 93 years old. It was badly damaged in the 2010-11 earthquakes and now operates at just 15-20% of the new building standard, which means it's earthquake prone. The new bridge will be built to handle earthquakes better, support emergency evacuations and adapt to future sea level rise along the Avon-Otakaro River corridor. As we know, it's a crucial lifeline for New Brighton, which has limited access in and out of the area. And with a 26% chance of a major earthquake in the next 50 years and possible tsunami, a strong, reliable bridge is essential. So, just touching on the engagement process, between May and July of last year, there were several phases of engagement. This included pre-engagement with the Community Board, followed by engagement with key stakeholders, and that includes direct engagement with community groups, transport stakeholders, emergency services, affected residents and businesses. In response to this initial feedback, a number of changes were made to the draft design, including addition of car parks on Seaview Road and also outside Nova Montessori. We then ran a public consultation process between July and August 2023 that reached over 30,000 people through various channels, social media. There was also door knocking, community meetings and online webinars. There was a strong focus on face-to-face interactions, and staff door knocked 70 properties on affected streets to discuss the consultation, as well as attending half a dozen local community meetings and 2 drop-in sessions. Reflecting this huge amount of effort on behalf of staff, we received a huge amount of feedback from 261 individuals and organisations. Overall, the results showed strong support for the project. Pages Road, 75% support. Hardy Street, 72% support. Seaview Road, 69%. The raised T intersection, 69%. Rawson and Pratt Streets, 70%. In response to the public consultation, further changes have been made to the initial design. This includes additional parking on Hawke Street, Rawson Street and Seaview Road. The panel met several times this year in April and May, and we heard from a further 20 submitters who made verbal presentations to the hearings panel. So as part of this process, the hearings panel carefully considered all aspects of this feedback made by the submitters, and we requested and undertook a site visit to key project sites with council staff. Throughout the process, the panel took submitters' feedback extremely seriously and raised questions in relation to the staff report, presentation and public and verbal submissions. And all of this feedback helped influence the final recommendation and further changes. So touching on some of the key feedback that was addressed as part of the overall scheme design, several submitters advised the panel of their concerns, safety concerns about the shared path on Seaview Road. So in response to this feedback, the panel recommended changing the shared path to a separated path on Seaview Road to allow better separation between pedestrians and cyclists. Some submitters raised concerns about the loss of car parking near retail businesses on Seaview Road, as well as Roy Stokes Community Hall. The panel asked staff to investigate 2 alternative design options, and based on feedback from local businesses, the panel added time-restricted parking outside the rental operator, as well as asking staff to investigate adding 4 car parks opposite Roy Stokes Hall as part of the detailed design process. Moving on to Hawke Street, the panel looked at 5 alternative options. The final recommendation added 1 car park with the option of another 5 car parks to be investigated as part of the detailed design. Turning to Rawson Street, the panel added 3 car parks adjacent to the red zone in response to feedback from a local business owner, as well as landscaping and safety improvements outside the local dairy. And then in regards to concerns from submitters on behalf of Nova Montessori, these submitters raised concern that closing Owls Terrace on the corner of Hardy Street would increase traffic flow on Hardy and Collingwood Streets, and that these changes would reduce available car parking for pick-up and drop-off. The panel carefully considered these matters at each stage of the process and asked for additional information and clarification from staff. We also included this area as part of our site visit. To address these matters, the panel requested further information to be investigated and reported back to Council. And the recommendations for further investigation included wider footpaths on Hardy Street to enable pedestrian egress in emergency and improving day-to-day safety. Several submitters raised concerns about the lack of pedestrian access to the school, so we requested staff engage further with the school to investigate a pedestrian refuge near the main gate. However, the school was not supportive of this, preferring additional car parking. So we have asked for staff to investigate the addition of a safe options during detailed design. The panel also worked to make sure that there was adequate space for car parking. In total, 14 car parks will be removed, leaving 45 on Hardy Street near the main entrance, and a total of 76 car parking for a school roll of 51. Wow. Other work was undertaken to provide more time-restricted parking near the school. However, the school indicated it did not require these. To conclude, the panel has proposed a recommended design based on the fact that it's the safest option in case of emergency evacuation and to improve safety, road condition and flood protection. The proposed design, which includes road closures, includes space for future stop banks that will protect the areas north and south of the bridge, including the school, from increased frequency of flooding as a result of climate change. I'd like to finish by acknowledging that this has been a long and, I believe, a very thorough process. And while the recommended design will not please everybody, the panel has spent a lot of time considering all the feedback, and I believe it's the best. We believe it's the best design to ensure safe and efficient travel to and from New Brighton and faster evacuation in emergency. And I'd like to move this item.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barber, seconder. Councillor Donovan, thank you for that excellent report. That was very, very clear. And I can tell by here that the hearings panel had a heck of a lot on their hands. I think you met, was it 4 or 5 times, plus the site visit? That's a phenomenal amount of work, and of course that comes with support from the staff. Do we have any questions? Councillor Harrison-Hunt?
Just for the engagement team.
Engagement?
And transport, if they're okay coming to the table.
What about Three Waters? No, not today.
I'm sure we can't convince them to do that.
Any emergency measure? Let's just get everyone there. Yeah. Kia ora, team. Thanks for coming to the table. Really appreciate it. As you may know, we've received quite a lot of communication from the Owls Terrace Montessori, which is located on the corner of Hardy Street and Owls Terrace here. So Celeste, Councillor Donovan gave a really good report in the overview of what changes were made accordingly, but it was bullet pointed. I'd love to just get a bit more clarity on what exactly has changed based on the engagement that's been had in alleviating the pressure or the pain from the Montessori that we're seeing behind us in the gallery.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to the
So this is going to be predominantly focused around this vicinity on Site 5.
I'll get Crystal to give you a quick update on the between Crystal and Nathan here. They'll give you an update on what has been done and what engagement has been undertaken with the school and what changes have been proposed.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, so in terms of engagement with the Nova Montessori, so we contacted them during early engagement, so that was in July, before we went out for consultation, and we had a meeting with them at that point to share the designs and asked them to share the consultation with their school community. We then met with them again during consultation, and out of those 2 meetings, their concerns were around safety for school students, as Councillor Donovan has illustrated on Hardy Street. So the team has had a look at pedestrian crossings as a result of that, and they've also looked to address their car parking concerns. We also went back and met with them again during the hearings process to ask them again whether they'd like to consider including a pedestrian crossing on Hardy Street. So I'll let Nathan talk about the changes that were made.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. So the changes that were made, I mean, to repeat, we did go out to Nova Montessori, talk to them. We did propose a pedestrian island for them to cross safely. They wanted more car parking, so we took that pedestrian island out, refuge island out, and we moved a curb build out as well to create one more car park outside of Nova Montessori, opposite them.
On the corner of Ouse and
Yeah,
Hardy.
yeah, on Hardy Street, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
And also we've provided, I don't know how many options, but we've provided a few alternative options to the hearings panel about around this area, Alice Terrace and Hardy Street. So I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. And we've also got a couple of actions during detailed design to investigate the wider footpaths and to investigate a pedestrian refuge island, and that was out of the hearings panel requesting that.
So
Okay.
that's covered off in resolution 3 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of not clear. So on one thing, so the argument from the Montessori was it doesn't feel safe for our kids. So you implemented a pedestrian island, and they said no pedestrian island. We want more car parks. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
That's
Okay. And did they want permanent parks or temporary drop-off zones?
They wanted to retain their P3 outside of their school.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
and
did also ask them about time-restricted car parking on Hardy Street on the opposite side to the school, and they said that they didn't want time-restricted, just to be left as all-day parking.
And I believe that we've also offered any other streets if they want to, like Collingwood or Owls, around near the school. We can provide time-restricted parking. That's easy.
Okay. And what's the speed limit in this vicinity here?
The speed limit is currently 50. It is there's plans for it to be 30, but that's part of this Christchurch Safer.
That's the speed management stuff that will come back.
Oh, I'd love to see those. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So it's currently 50. There's no changes or recommendations to make it 30 outside the school.
Not as part of this, that's a separate project.
We were
Okay.
coordinating that safer speed was going to come first, and we were going to implement design that would facilitate that.
Oh, I see. Little chicken and egg thing.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Okay, that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just remind councillors that this is a hearings panel report. Our options are to accept the report or send it back to the hearings panel. So it's not an opportunity to go over the whole thing. I mean, and I really appreciate your questions about Alice Terrace and the Montessori. That's relevant. So if we can just remember that. Councillor Scandrett and then Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, and thank you to the 3 councillors that were on the hearings panel. It's always a lot of work and hard, but well done, so thank you. 2 things. I think Tyler mentioned one with regards to the 30k in front of schools. That's just a standard now, isn't it? So that will happen at some stage. Yeah. And so it obviously spreads out a wee bit so cars have to slow down. And that corner that where Hardy Street's now being, or Alice Terrace has been diverted onto,
Yep.
now is going to be a raised platform. So
Correct.
So yeah, they'll slow down on the corner. Okay. Alice Terrace, from my mind, if I was looking at safety for my children, that's where I would be dropping them off, and obviously I'd have to get up a bit early to get in there. So what are you looking at? Kind of, you mentioned you could put time parking on there to ensure that no one parked there all day. So is that what you're looking at for that? Because I see that you've closed Alice Terrace, so between Hardy Street and Collingwood Street, it's a cul-de-sac. It will be a cul-de-sac.
The offer's been put there, and we can come back and deal with that. It's not a difficult situation to resolve.
Yep, but as there are only 2 private houses on that stretch, I would imagine that the
You've got
demand on
detailed
parking
design
wouldn't
to
be
go
huge,
through
yeah.
yet.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, thank you. 2 different questions, and one of them might be for the legal team. So we received a letter yesterday about some concerns around the process and potential judicial review. I just wondered if anyone had a chance to have a look at that and if they could provide a view on that.
We can provide a view on it. We've
But probably
have reviewed it.
Yeah.
Helen would be the other one if you want it from legal.
Through the chair, yes, councillor, we've reviewed the letter. There's no reason that's raised in that letter to prevent a decision being made today. My advice is you're open to continue. If there are questions that come about in your mind from that letter, you're welcome to ask those of the staff, particularly in relation to the process.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
there's nothing preventing us making a decision today, in your view. Okay. And just the other one is just so I'm clear in my mind. So it's quite a big project what the hearings panel have considered, and I'm thinking about the public commentary at the moment around just actually the bridge and that being the lifeline. And I know the mayor's obviously been doing some work around how we get some funding from Wellington out of that. Can you just talk me through if there's a stage process or what that kind of looks like? I mean, am I right in saying
for implementation?
Yeah, so like if government come back and say, look, we're going to give you, I don't know, 30 or 40 million towards this bridge, can we just do, like, can you just talk me through how that would work?
We still have to come back for our procurement plan, so that's where we would look at staging the construction and staging the implementation of this over time.
Yeah.
There is some fundamentals that with the bridge need to be done. The approaches need to be done at the same time. Probably makes sense to do that piece of a large chunk of that piece of Pages Road that you see towards Anzac Drive needs to be done anyway to realign it, and the intersection, the T intersection on the New Brighton side of the bridge needs to be done to make the bridge function well. The rest of the works can be staged quite well, and we can bring that back once we've got better understanding of the funding models and as part of the procurement process.
Right, so that may not necessarily happen straight away.
No.
The view would be lock down the bridge if we can and then flow on.
Yep.
And we'd have a chance to input into that in terms of the procurement plan.
Yes, and we are also, I remind all councillors, that we are also reporting back soon about the whole transport program and the impacts of the NLTP, so that's part of that conversation and how do we set this up. So yes, we can do all of that.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you. Just wanted to check, going forward to detailed design on this, there's nothing stopping the team from still engaging and talking with the school, the Nova Montessori?
No, nothing preventing us engaging and talking to them, but the approved design is the approved design, and staff are, and the resolution is for staff to deliver the approved design.
Right.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thank you for the extensive work that we've done on this. I was just wondering, is there a project for us to get updated on, or a process for us to get updated on the Lifelines study? I'm just mindful that we had Orion in here the other day, and there's a number of concerns around.
So it is outside the scope, Councillor, but I think it's a good idea. But
Well, no, in terms of understanding, in terms of Pages Road Bridge, have we looked at the Lifelines
that's the question.
study that was done
Yep.
and ensured that the design takes into account the risk factors?
Yes.
And
And can we answer that one?
Yes.
Yes, that's a
we
yes.
have. So we could make that
It is
available.
Pages Road is a Lifelines bridge, and it's been designed as a Lifelines bridge.
So is there like an assessment of the different services and stuff that we can see?
Well, they've all been engaged with it, as Celeste mentioned in her excellent report.
Sorry, you're kind of missing the point. What I'm trying to understand is there some sort of assessment as part of the design around the lifeline utilities that are incorporated into the bridge, so that when whatever happens,
we have a sense
I'm
of.
sure that
It's part of the detailed design process.
yeah.
It's
Right.
part of the detailed design process. So you're about 3 steps ahead of where we are right at the moment.
Okay.
So that's good to know. And then the other question I had was in terms of Pages Road, and I see one of the recommendations is around looking at the MCR, but I'm still struggling to understand why we can't get access to the high-level route assessment for that MCR, given that there is other corridor works happening connecting into the Pages Road Bridge.
So I have to apologise, Councillor. I've come prepared to talk about Pages Road Bridge. I can't talk to the detail of the MCR right now, but I do know that this project has been future-proofed because the understanding is the crossing of the river for the Avon-Atakaro MCR is has been agreed at Pages Road. So the bridge has accommodated the requirement for cyclists.
Thank you.
But we haven't agreed to that yet. So we haven't approved the route. So I'm just trying
But
to
the bridge
understand.
needs to accommodate cyclists anyway, so you can't and pedestrians in the event of an emergency.
Right. And just the other question related to that is I know in the report that there's talk about not being able to encroach into the park's land in terms of the cycleway design. Is there, I couldn't quite understand the logic around that in terms of having, not having a separated cycleway off-road.
Yeah, so we'll go pinch point. We'll against the existing bridge, and then just on the we're referring to in the red zone, there is they've deposited contaminated land material, and we don't want to touch that part of the consenting.
Right, because that would be expensive. Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you. Right, is there any debate on this? It's been moved and seconded, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor Barber?
Yeah, thanks very much. Look, I'm happy to support this. It's been an incredibly long process, a lot of consultation, a lot of modifications made. My first involvement was in 2019 when I was chair of the community board out there. I assumed that it would be simply a matter of building a sort of a ferry mead option where you have a sort of a bypass and you replace the bridge, but it became obviously a lot more complicated than that. A lot of it revolves around the new position of the bridge, which will be slightly north of the old bridge. The height it needs to be above the water. There's a tremendous amount of other things that needed to be taken into consideration. The stop banks, the future stop bank renewal around Owls Terrace, the city to sea pathway and how that sort of joins in, the space for retention ponds, and of course the alleviating the flooding on that has been a persistent problem on the stretch of Pages Road from the motorway down to the bridge itself. Some of you will remember that our mayor dug a trench to help alleviate the flooding back in the day, and so the new design will cater for that, and no one will need to be down there with diggers. We've asked a tremendous amount of questions over a number of years, all about the total situations, and I think that came to a head with the hearings panel, which was really well run by Celeste, and I want to commend Councillor Templeton as well for the work that she did there. Having said that, I was never entirely happy with the changes that needed to be made in terms of the access to the bridge through Hardy Street in the south and Rawson Street in the north, but given all the other factors that had to be taken into consideration, there was little choice but to go with those routes. So I just want to finish by saying that a tremendous number of people have been involved in this project, from elected members, council staff, transport team, designers, engineers, some of who are here today, and they've put in a lot of work. There's been a lot of collaboration between many different departments to get to the solution that we have today. Is it perfect? No. But it actually works, and our job has been to hear it all and to ask all the questions, which we've done, deliberate, and finally make a decision. So we're here today, and I'm really pleased to support it.
Kia ora. Councillor Harrison-Hunt.
Kia ora. I just want to commend the hearings panel on the amazing work, and Councillor Donovan for giving a great overview of what went on during the hearings process. And within that process, it's very, very substantial. There's quite a lot of information, and we got a spreadsheet on all of the engagements that happened. So therefore, I'd like to also commend staff for the amazing work they've done. Looking over the site plan, the only issue that really popped up was obviously the Montessori's issues. And as it stands right now, for me, having a daughter that goes to kindergarten on one of the busiest roads in Christchurch, this looks like a dream. Reason being is it's easier enough to turn down Collywalk and go down hours and drop your child off safely. Also, those P3s are great access points. The only thing that confused me around the safety issues was the pedestrian island and the refusal of having that, because we also know around the table that anyone would love a pedestrian island
I'll have it.
in our ward. So that there sort of defined it for me around what approach we should be taking. I feel like this is the right one. So therefore, I'm really happy to support the hearings panel's recommendations. I commend staff, I commend the hearings panel, and thank everyone for their work. Kia ora.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Donovan, do you want to close?
Is there anyone else?
There's Councillor Johansson. And
Yeah, thank you. I too just want to acknowledge the work of the hearings panel. I'm a big fan of having hearings panels being able to listen to concerns that submitters raised and then make the appropriate recommendations and changes. I think it's a really good model for engagement, and we should. I would prefer to see us do more hearings panels on issues that we're dealing with, particularly around complex designs. I also want to commend the hearings panels for the recommendation around the MCR and looking at prioritising that, given that it's just so frustrating that we don't know what the route is. We haven't approved the route, but we know that it's going to go in this kind of area, and we've got even just a little bit further up Pages Road, we're currently rebuilding curb and channel and leaving huge amounts of road reserve that could actually have a nice cycleway without having any impact on people. So the more we can do things together and get synergy around design, the more efficient it will be and the better outcomes we get for our community. So I'm very supportive of Resolution 4. I think it's just very hard to comprehend, given how much time we've spent on that one in terms of putting additional budget on to get the design, why we're so far behind in terms of getting at least a sense of that route being confirmed and being done. But the tragedy of this, although we celebrate today that we're building the bridge and that we're moving forward, is that Skirt actually did a design many years ago. So actually, following the earthquakes in 2011, there was already a design done to repair the Pages Road Bridge, and it was a replacement, and it was going to cost $14 million, which we were going to pay 7.7, and NZTA were going to pay $7 million. And unfortunately, and I do want to acknowledge previous councillors like Councillor Livingston, Glenn Livingston, who advocated for it, it got taken out of the Skirt program, and the cost got put back onto the council in the future. And I think that was really, really unfortunate. So let this be one of those lessons from the earthquake around optimisation of skirt repair programs that has meant that we've ended up picking up a huge increase in cost to our residents because of the way in which the government treated us not fully funding the earthquake repairs that were needed in our communities. And it's a real shame that this project has taken so long, but today obviously is moving it forward, and I'm supportive of it.
Kia ora. All right, I invite Councillor Donovan to close.
I just want to start by acknowledging all the different parties that have been involved in this process. So starting with staff, the huge amount of work, once again, the panel members, and also council, I think has been incredibly united in understanding that this is such an important project for not only the New Brighton community, but for our city. And for that reason, this council has made it really clear to this government that this is our number one project in the city, and we're looking forward to hearing back about funding. I also want to acknowledge the huge amount of engagement we've had with community and how useful that has been as part of the process. So we've made a number of changes to the design throughout the process, and I think the best way to deliver these projects is with community, and I think it's really important that this process has delivered on that, and you can see that through the recommendations. There have been a number of changes made to address the different concerns that have been raised, and I just want to conclude by once again saying that with this project, today is a milestone in that we're moving forward And that's the key thing. We're moving forward on a project that will provide faster evacuation, better access to the area on a day-to-day basis. And also it's recognition that this project has taken 13 years to get to this point, so we can't afford any further delays. So getting through this stage is actually allowing us to continue with detailed design, to continue working with Wakatahi around funding, so that we can get on and get this bridge built. And that's the key thing today, is actually we get this project across the line. So I just want to thank everybody once again for their support, and I'm looking forward to moving to the vote. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thanks, Councillor Donovan. Well said. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of receiving the hearings panel report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, unanimously. Right, item 15.